half in the bag. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Whoa, there's some strong winds today, Jay.
How can you tell?
Well, before we were moving slow, and now we're moving fast.
You're right, Mike. I hope we can find a place to safely land this house, or Mr. Plinkett will be furious.
Who knows, Jay? You and I seem to have bad luck. Wherever we go, it follows. It follows.
In fact, you could say that it follows us fast and furiously.
Look, let's just talk about the fucking movies, okay?
I used to daydream about being old enough to go on dates. I had this image of myself holding hands with a really cute guy, driving along some pretty road. It was never about going anywhere, really. It was having some sort of freedom, I guess.
It Follows is a new horror film from Robert David Mitchell. Or David Robert Mitchell?
David Robert Mitchell.
A guy who directed something else. The film takes place in Detroit, and if that's not scary enough, if you're a teen who has premarital sex, an invisible person that only you can see will slowly walk towards you. Sound scary? Believe it or not, it was. Mike, what did you think of It Follows?
I think I like this movie.
What?
Well, sort of. Like any movie, it has problems. Most movies have problems unless you're Ghostbusters or The Rocketeer.
Yes.
This was a 92% Rotten Tomatoes score, fairly well received horror film, very different, stylistically very unique in the fact that it achieves its goal of kind of creating that 70s horror atmosphere, kind of like
70s, early 80s, especially with the score, yeah.
Oh, definitely the score. It's very reminiscent of John Carpenter, Halloween.
I got a little bit of Nightmare on Elm Street in there too, with certain aspects
very
of
much, yeah. The part where the two girls are walking down the street and there's all the like evergreen trees kind of by the sidewalk, and it's like a steady cam shot. Very retro. Just overall, really good tension until kind of the plotting falls apart a little for me, and then kind of picks up towards the end, sort of. Does that sum it up?
That's pretty apt, yeah. I really, really, really liked it. I almost loved it, but yeah, it kind of stumbles a bit in the second half. Has some pacing issues. Overall, I like the fact that it's such a slow build-up, very atmospheric. It's like a checklist of everything I love in horror movies.
What exactly is supposed to be following you?
I don't know.
Something happened. It's not what she thinks, okay?
You don't believe me. Mom? No, it's me. Everything's okay.
I noticed a few, speaking of the score, I noticed a few parts where it seemed like they had taken music and slowed it down to like 15-20%, where, you know, you hear that audio quality starts to break down.
Well, there's like a weird rumbling ambience.
It has that, which is what happens when you take just a regular track and like slow it down to like 10%. Is
yeah.
And where it's the quality starts to crumble at that speed, but which I thought was neat.
Yeah, no, it knows when to use music and it knows when to be silent, which is something most horror films, especially like the big studio ones, you think of like this same premise done in the style of like Ouija.
I saw Ouija.
You saw that movie? But this is like the polar opposite of that, where it's like you can say, okay, because this is like a Final Destination type premise. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, but done in just such a completely stripped down, very simplistic way that made it genuinely creepy in parts. Well, even the central concept is sort of a subversion, and the fact that the convention of horror movies is, you know, the virgin lives. This is a movie where you have to be promiscuous in order to survive, because it's this thing that you have to pass along to other people by having sex with them. What I took, and this is what I like, is that the premise is so vague that it gives you lots of room to kind of imagine what's happening or fill in the gaps. and I kind of saw it as like a fear of like loss of innocence, you know, like there's certain points where it's like when she's scared she runs to the park, like a little kid park and things like that, and you know, and having sex for the first time and all these things. And I liked that. I liked that it didn't over-explain those elements,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that works on a thematic level. But towards the end a little bit, it's like, okay, I get what you're doing, but on a like literal level or a narrative level, it's slightly anticlimactic. You know?
Yeah.
I get what they were doing, but it almost needed like just one little turn in the story.
Thematically, it worked. It was very dreamlike.
Yes.
You know, I like the imagery of just the kids. When they go to find the one kid who initially started the whole thing with the killer, they're all sitting on his lawn, you know, in a circle, and this, them hanging out on the porch and drinking sodas and beers and stuff in the car. It felt like summer.
Yeah,
in between
and
school.
childhood innocence that is slowly being taken away from these people.
Yeah, and but yeah, the a little more of an even blend between the thematic stuff and then the storyline, which started to become a little like, okay, now what? Now what?
To me, it felt a little repetitive after a while, where it's like they go to a place, they sit around, they wait, thing starts to walk towards them, they run away, and then that happens again. It's a little too much in the second half, but I don't want to come down too hard on it because overall I really, really liked it.
Yeah, and that repetitiveness, I guess we'll go into spoilers slightly.
Okay.
So warning, spoilers. The part on the beach, a real nice setup. The main heroine, whatever her name was Jay.
Her name was Jay.
Yeah, she's kind of sitting there, and they're all keeping their eye out for the ghosts. Premise, real quick.
I guess we should explain what the hell the movie's about.
You have sex with someone that's cursed, I'll say, instead of, you know, I guess I don't know what the term would be. They're cursed if they have sex with someone who has this curse. A person or entity will take the form of a human and just start slowly walking towards you.
That only you can see.
That only you can see.
And if it reaches you, it kills you.
It kills you, busts your leg in half.
Apparently.
It kills you in a horrific way. So in order to get rid of this thing from following you, you have to have sex with somebody else, and it kind of attaches itself to them, which doesn't quite make sense. Because once it kills someone, what if that person didn't have sex with another person? It's like the train ends there.
Sure.
And then it's like, oh, who am I going after now? I didn't quite get the logic there, but whatever. It's a horror movie.
It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd. Whatever helps it get close to you.
It did remind me of Nightmare on Elm Street a lot because they come up with this plan to kill the entity. And with the Freddy movie, it's like, okay, we know he can be pulled out of a dream.
Yeah.
And maybe when he's pulled out of the dream, you know, we can hit him with a baseball bat. Good plan. All the rules are there, it makes sense. Right. This is like, they shoot the thing with a gun numerous times, but then for some inexplicable reason, they think it can be electrocuted in a pool.
Yeah, that kind of
by throwing toasters into it. Weird scene.
Yeah.
Really weird setup.
Well, weird logic from the characters where you're like, what? Why did you come to this conclusion?
In a way, though, if they were like, it reminded me of the kids from It, Stephen King's It, when they're trying to stop, and he's got the slingshot with the silver bullet or silver coin on it,
Something
right?
like that.
Isn't that? And so it kind of reminded me of little kid logic. Like, let's throw all these electrical things in a pool and see.
Okay.
But they were a little too older to operate on that logic level.
Yeah,
That's more
okay.
like, I don't know, 10-year-old logic, and they were like 18.
Sure. Yes, it's a really observational movie, which is what I liked. Like, there's lots of like that part you were talking about when they're all sitting around in the circle on the lawn, and there's just like close-ups of the main character as this, you know, pivotal dialogue scene's happening. She's just pulling blades of grass and like lining them up on her leg, and little things you do without even really thinking about the fact that you're doing it, and the camera's just focused on it. Or like, I really liked the Halloween shot early on with the two girls walking down the street. It just cuts to like a tracking shot, almost like from their side point of view, passing a house, and you hear like a couple arguing inside, and just little details like that really make it feel like not movie land, but like a real lived-in world. Like the real world, and these are things that are happening in it.
Yeah, and the neighborhoods they shot in were real, like, they felt authentic. It didn't feel like movie street.
Yeah.
Where they spray down water on the street at night, and there are the movie houses, and it
Yeah.
looks so, the blue lighting, and it looks like a James Cameron movie. It looks fake. Most horror movies look like that.
Which is great. It was an independent movie, and it's actually, there's been a lot of, like, if people complain about modern horror movies, they're talking about like Ouija or the Paranormal Activity movies. Like, this movie is one of many in the last couple years that have come out that are just really, really clever independent horror movies. Like, the studio stuff kind of sucks right now when it's not directed by James Wan. But this movie, last year there was like Starry Eyes and Late Phases about an elderly blind war vet that fights werewolves, and it's great. Like, so yeah, the last couple of years there's been a lot of really good independent horror films, and it's nice to see one like this kind of blow up or reach a wider audience, because maybe we will get less Ouijas and more character-driven, atmospheric, genuinely creepy horror movies.
Yeah. But they know what the masses want.
But no one saw Ouija. Was that a hit? But I can picture like a general audience, like someone that likes Paranormal Activity or movies like that, going to see It Follows and being bored as shit. Because it's very slow. It's more about atmosphere than it is. There's no jump scares, really. And I think people have been conditioned now to think that like jump scares, like that's what a horror movie is. Where it's just, you're being startled. You're not scared. Like, this movie has a genuine sense of dread to it. And you feel for the characters. And it's been a while since I've seen a movie that works in that way as well as this does.
It needed that like oomph to really hit it home. It's like hitting a home run, and then it just kind of falls a little shy.
And that's the frustrating part, is like, I understand what they're doing with the end, but it just does feel like it needs one sort of punch.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, look, Mike, I found the sequel to It Follows. It's called It Came.
So It Follows is a prequel then,
Yes.
because it's following, and then finally
And
it
then
came.
it came. It showed up. So, Mike, would you recommend It Follows?
I absolutely would. It's a great film. Great film. Very, very interesting. It starts off a little annoying because it's like a mumblecore movie, and then you're like, what? Why is she reading text on a seashell compact? What?
What is this?
Yeah, and the kids act weird, and kids don't watch 1950s sci-fi B movies.
How do you know that?
They don't.
How many kids do you hang out with?
It felt a little like pretentious Garden State-esque. We're cool. We do weird things, and it was like a little annoying at first. But then it's like, oh, what's happening? Like weird, and then you're engrossed in it, and then like 3/4 of the way through, you're like, what? And then it ends. You're like, neat. I think. Jay, would you recommend It Follows?
I absolutely would, especially if you're a fan of horror movies. It's one of the best ones that's come out recently. I'd also recommend Starry Eyes that came out last year.
Do you recommend Star Wars?
Star Wars, it was a film that came out in the late 70s, and it's pretty good.
James Wan directs his scariest film yet, The Fast and the Furious 7, or as it's also known, Furious 7. In this probably not last installment, the gang is all back to fight some group that wants to get a device that can see everyone's phones or something. Jason Statham is another bad guy who wants revenge on our heroes for injuring his brother. An event I can only assume happened in the last film, since I haven't seen any of these films. Vin Diesel's house explodes, and then a lot of action happens. Then the movie ends.
Well, Mike, before we get into what I thought about Furious 7, we should point out that neither of us have seen any of the other movies in the series. I was actually going to marathon them all in preparation for the new film, but I couldn't figure out what order to watch them in because the titles are all so fucked. So I just didn't.
Well, let's list all the titles so that people understand.
So the first film is, of course, The Fast and the Furious, and that was followed up with Too Fast, Too Furious. And then the third film in the series was Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. The fourth film was Fast and Furious, and that was followed up with Fast 5, and the film after that was Fast and Furious 6.
Which was followed by Furious 7.
Furious 7 we're at now.
What will the 8th film be called?
The 8. They're running out of words in the title of the Fast and the Furious, so they're just gonna call it The 8. So we didn't see any of these films, and we said, let's go see this new one and see if we can figure out what the fuck is happening.
It was very easy.
It's pretty simple. It's not a complicated series, although I do have a question, which is, they're like a group, they're a team that drives cars. Do they work for the CIA or the FBI?
What I gather was that Paul Walker was an FBI agent, and in the beginning, maybe he was undercover in the drag racing scene.
Okay.
Tell us if we're wrong. And Vin Diesel was a drag racer who was like a tough guy, and then they kind of teamed up. And then all the other characters are sort of like
they show
racers.
Up throughout the rest of the series. Yeah.
And then in this last film, Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez fell in love, and Michelle Rodriguez hit her head and got amnesia. And Paul Walker married Vin Diesel's sister, and they have a little baby together.
Yes.
And that's all I think I knew what happened.
That's all you need.
Oh, and then somehow they were driving their cars around in London, and somebody hit Jason Statham's brother and crippled him.
Yeah.
So he's back. He wants revenge.
Dominic Toretto, you don't know me. You're about to.
Looks like the sins of London have followed us home.
Remember Owen Shaw? This is his big bad brother.
We're being hunted. One last ride.
Does it even need to be said that this movie is dumb?
No.
It's like saying water's wet.
Yeah.
This movie's very, very dumb.
It's dumb in a celebratory kind of self-aware way.
It's inoffensive, unlike a Michael Bay movie,
Right.
where it's like you know that he is looking down on the audience he's making the movie for.
Michael Bay thinks he's like a badass making a movie, and he's like, yeah, I'm so awesome. I imagine James Wan and the whole cast and crew just like laughing as
yeah,
they
that's
make
what I
it.
was thinking. I was like, is it possible to direct an entire movie sarcastically? Because that's what this feels like.
Yeah.
There's no bit.
Is like laughably thin. Another movie we saw a trailer for was a new Mission Impossible movie. The last one was actually really good.
I haven't seen that yet.
Ghost Protocol, I think it was
Yeah,
called.
Brad Bird directed it.
Yeah, I mean Brad Bird is a cool dude. He made The Incredibles.
Yeah.
And
You
he
can
worked
tell
on
he's
The
a cool
Simpsons.
dude. You can tell he's a cool dude just by looking at this picture of him.
Brad Bird and Mission Impossible 5 or 4 or 6, Ghost Protocol. That was a great movie. And it had sort of a complicated plot. It took itself, it's still silly, but it took itself a little more seriously. This movie, much less seriously. It reminded me of like being a little kid again. It is like a little kid playing with toys. It's nonsense.
Well, there's that famous AV Club video with the little kid that supposedly wrote the script for these movies. Yeah.
Now, I understand the movie stays pretty much 100% true to your original screenplay.
Yep.
Well, it's so great to have that kind of a chemistry with a director.
The question is that like the diehard, like obviously this series has fans because they've made it up to 7. Do the people that really love these movies, are they watching it with the same sort of eyes that we are? Or do they think, because there's so many shots in this movie, like every scene starts with like badass hip hop music and just like endless close-ups of girls' asses.
There's a lot of that.
And it's
yeah.
like, and then like dudes walking. Every scene starts out like that. And it's like, are there people in this audience that think this is badass?
Yes.
Or are they laughing? Because
No.
I was laughing.
The answer is yes.
Get low when the whistle goes.
Now we talk.
but everyone behind the camera is laughing.
Yeah.
They know what they're making and they know who they're making it for, much like Ouija. It's a very specific thing. But if like this movie didn't annoy me, like the new Bruce Willis with Die Hard, John McClane movies.
Oh God, yeah.
See, you have that reaction because Die Hard 1, while it was a big action movie, is somewhat grounded in reality. This, and then the new Die Hard movies, where it's just like he's throwing planes around, and then it's like no, and then it annoys you. But this movie didn't annoy me. Like Vin Diesel lifts a car up, like he's so strong he lifts a car up. Yeah. And then the Rock is in it, and I guess he was in other movies.
He was in the previous, at least one.
And he plays so
the
big.
Rock. Yeah.
He plays the Rock, but who's also like he works for the CIA or something. I don't know. But he gets horribly injured and he's in the hospital. And then when the movie needs him to come back and help his friends, he just says, "I'm no longer crippled." And he gets up and he gets up. He's like, "Daddy's got to go to work."
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's gonna rip his fucking cast off, isn't he? And then there's a little voice in my brain that goes, "No, that's too stupid. No, that's too stupid." And
but your brain wasn't stupid enough.
My brain wasn't stupid enough because he flexes his own cast off and it shatters. And then I just went, all right, that's all right with me.
That's
I'm
okay.
I'm A-okay with this.
I would say this movie needs more of The Rock because Vin Diesel is basically the main character, and Vin Diesel is the most like charisma-free actor I've ever seen. He's like laughable. You could have put like a Rock with googly eyes in his role, and it would have the same impact.
There was a Rock with googly eyes in the role in the movie. His name was Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, the movie when he comes back, because he gets injured at the beginning, The Rock does, and then he doesn't come back till the final like big action sequence, and the movie like livens up. Like he's got charisma.
Yeah,
The
when
Rock.
he takes like a minigun off of a helicopter or whatever it came from.
He just picks it up.
He just picks it up and he just starts shooting it.
The movie needed more of him, less Vin Diesel. We're about family.
Yeah,
Looks like he's about to fall asleep.
When Vin Diesel's on the screen talking, Sylvester Stallone says, "What did he say?" What did he say?
Well, I guess we should talk about Paul Walker. This film ends with a love letter to Paul Walker, very maybe overdone for this type of movie. It gets really, really sappy at the end of this like ridiculous action movie. And I understand what they're doing, but based on, because obviously I haven't seen the other movies, but based on this movie alone, like obviously Paul Walker, rest in peace, but he doesn't do anything in this whole movie.
He punches a guy a lot. No, he does. Well, he does stuff, but
he doesn't have any sort of like. There's nothing memorable about him in this film.
No,
he's just the guy that's there next to the guy that's mumbling, next to the girl that punches people.
His character arc was that he didn't like domestic life because he drove a minivan, and he really likes being shot at and murdering people.
And then at the end, he decides that he doesn't like those things, I guess. Yes. So it's sort of, it's not an arc so much as it is a complete circle.
Yeah, well, he's back with his wife and his little baby, and he's going to start a family life and settle down instead of going on action adventures.
Okay.
That was his character, and then nothing happened the whole movie to support that. It just started with him saying that, and then he goes on a 3-hour-long violence festival, and then it ends. Yeah. So you're right. I don't know if you could call that an arc so much as a little microscopic bump. I don't know.
Daddy's gotta go to work. This is a world that doesn't play by your rules.
But that's another thing. You could sit there and go, oh no, like isn't it laughable how no one got hurt at all during the horrible, anything that happened to any one of these characters would kill a human being. It's like they're superheroes. Mm-hmm. And you could sit there and go, like that's not realistic. But the movie's sort of like a celebration of dumb action movies, in a way. And they do feel like superheroes because some Chinese man dies who I assume was in the last film.
Sure.
His name was Han. And I guess he was a crucial member of their team, but he just gets killed in a scene we don't see.
Oh, they just show up at his funeral or something.
Well,
right?
he's like half dead in a car. Jason Statham kills him.
Oh, that's right.
And then they're like, he got Han.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, and then they're at his funeral, and Vin Diesel's there, and he's like, and then you see Jason Statham driving by. It's like a car with tinted windows, and then it's almost like he leaves to go put on his superhero costume.
Yeah.
And there's like, dun 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 dun, and he's got his car. He needs his car. That's his like Superman costume.
Yes.
And
yes.
then once you've got a car, you can do anything.
I guess.
You
Yeah.
do anything.
Well,
Kurt Russell shows up, and he's like, I'm man.
I'm Kurt Russell.
I'm man with suit, and I'm secret man. And find the girl, and I will tell you where to find Jason Statham, even though wherever you go, Jason Statham shows up.
Yes.
And then they find the girl, and the girl says, I gave the device to my friend. We have to go here. Let's go to Abu Dhabi. So they go to
Q establishing shots, close-ups of asses. Every
yeah,
scene.
it's Arab stereotypes moving camels across a highway. And then, women scantily clad in the United Arab Emirates in bikinis. And then they find the guy, and he goes, oh no, I don't have it. It's conveniently located inside a highly locked safe at the top of this awesome building.
I sold it. Did he say he sold it?
He
to
sold
someone?
it, yeah. And then the guy hid it in the conveniently in the glove box or underneath. I don't know where. It was inside.
It's in a car.
It was inside the world's most expensive, fastest car.
Yes.
Which was just a coincidence.
That's very convenient for Vin Diesel and gang.
Yes. It wasn't just in a safe. It was inside the world's most expensive and fastest car ever to exist.
Yeah.
In the top of a very big building. This sounds like the setup for an action scene. So we gotta go get it. And then they get it, and then they say, let's go back to LA now.
Yep.
It is like a little 8-year-old boy wrote these scripts. It really is.
The car went out of the train, and then there's a hole in the train. And then the car brought the box, then the police went after them, then the box hit the car, and then it crashed into the ocean.
I really like the sequence when they go to Abu Dhabi. Like just the look of it.
Oh, sure.
It was a fun little like caper scene when they're trying to break into this, and then they get the supercar and smashing up the party. It felt like Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible kind of kind of fun thing. But
just much more dumb.
Yeah, I gotta go drive.
He just has the worst one-liners in this movie too. Everyone is a groaner.
Yeah.
And you know what? If it was The Rock saying them, they probably would have worked.
They would have been
They're the same
hilarious.
horrible lines, but they would have worked.
The Rock has charisma. The Rock is a fun, likable guy. Vin Diesel is not.
No, Vin Diesel is like a real Rock.
He should play the Thing in the new Fast and Furious 4. I mean, Fantastic and Furious 4. I mean, which also has an invisible lady, just like It Follows. Her name's Sue Storm. There's so many coincidences. So, Jay, would you recommend Fast and Furious 7, also known as Furious 7?
I don't know. Like, I know we've had fun like laughing at it, but it's 2.5 hours long. Watch it on cable and only half pay attention to it, and watch other things on your iPad until you hear an engine rev, and then look up at the TV.
My recommendation is go and walk out once they leave the Middle East.
Okay.
Because I like the part when they rescue the girl from the bus, that whole action sequence when they drop the cars and they have the parachutes on the cars and that whole action sequence. And then I like when they go to Abu Dhabi. Yeah. And then they have the cars jump through between the two buildings. Then
3 buildings.
3 buildings, sorry. Then you could leave. So I kind of would recommend it because the action set pieces are pretty fun. Yeah. They're understandable. To me, they weren't as nauseating as other action movies. They were more like self-aware and celebratory of the schlock it knew it was. Yeah. So to me, that was fun.
I'm just picturing Grandpa walking into the theater and watching this movie, like, because he likes action movies from like the 50s, and just being like, "Oh, this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare."
I remember Paul Newman, the sports car. Whoa! Whoa! Well, that's interesting. Well, Jay, it looks like we've drifted about 70 miles south of Milwaukee.
How can you tell that?
Well, because we're about to crash into the Sears Tower.
Oh, God, no, not the Sears Tower!
Don't you mean the Willis Tower? They changed the name a few years ago.
Oh, that's right.
Huh.
Oh, God, no, not the Willis Tower!
Actually, Mr. Plinkett, you're wrong. They've changed the name again. Now it's called the Viagra Tower.
Oh, no, not the Viagra Tower!
You suppose Viagra sponsored it because it looks like a giant black erection?
That's the first thing I thought of, too. And apparently so have a lot of other people. There's a whole bunch of negative comments. So they've changed the name again. Now it's called the Chicago Bears Tower.
Well, why'd they call it that? That building doesn't look like it really sucks. It seems like a nice, sturdy, dependable building. The kind of building that doesn't embarrass its city at every available opportunity.
Ah, the Chicago Bears Tower!